Welcome to the second part of lecture number 3. In first part, we have discussed the components of the irrigation system. So majorly we have two components, the intake component and the conveyance components. Also we have discussed the irrigation water quality, that what are the threshold values for different physical, chemical and biological impurities in the irrigation water. In this part of the tutorial, we will discuss the basic terminologies and background for determination and measurement of irrigation water requirement. For example, the types of soils, preparation of land for the irrigation, classes and availability of soil water, limiting soil moisture conditions, depth and frequency of irrigation, duty and delta, planning a water resources project, types of areas, intensity of irrigation, Kharif Rabi ratio, and the different factors affecting the duty. So basically these topics will be discussed under the chapter of irrigation water requirement and its measurement. So the most important topic of irrigation engineering is the irrigation water requirement and its determination. Because for any type of design, planning and management of irrigation project, first we have to know about the water requirement of a specific crop for the given area. If we know the required quantification of water for the given area, then we can design and plan the intake and conveyance, application and distribution structures in irrigation project. Before determination of irrigation water requirement, first we have to know about the types of soil, land preparation for irrigation, classes and availability of soil water and the soil water relationship. Basically the irrigation water requirement and its determination will be discussed in next lecture. Here we will cover the background terminologies. So first we have the types of soil. So as we have discussed in our earlier lectures, that the irrigation water which we are applying into an agricultural area, that are majorly depend on the types of the soil, that what are the characteristics of the soil, what are the storage properties of the soil, how much water can be stored in the soil against the gravitational forces, what is the porosity of the soil, in which how much amount of water we can store. So based on that properties, that characteristics of the soil, we can find out the irrigation water requirement, the time of irrigation, okay, the frequency of irrigation, that when we have to apply the irrigation. So basically on the we can say that soil is an important medium for the crop growth. For example, this is the earth surface. So up to some level there are soil is available here, in which the roots of the crops are penetrated. Okay, the roots of the crop is penetrated and soil is providing a medium to the growing crops. Okay, and basically the soil perform the different we can say that the different functions. First of all, like soil is an anchor for the roots of the agricultural crops. Anchor means it is providing a supportive medium into the root zone. Also the soil is providing the water for its metabolism, because the irrigation water which we are applying, that are stored in the root zone, that are stored in the soil environment. So then that water is available for the we can say that for the transpiration. Okay, the water which is evaporated from the leaves of the crops, that are available in the root zone, that water is available in the pores of the soil. Then the roots are extracting that water and that water is then moved into the stems and the leaves, and then it is transpirated. Also different minerals are available in the soil. and that minerals are effective in the growth of the agricultural crops. So the minerals are provided by the soil. Also, the pores in the soil are providing oxygen, because from the earth's surface aeration is occurred, mean the oxygen entered into the ground surface, and then that oxygen is absorbed by through roots and through other mechanism for the metabolism purposes. So basically we can say that soil is a supportive medium, is an anchor for the roots. Soil provides the water for the transpiration. Soil provide the mineral for its nutrition. Soil provide the oxygen for the metabolism of the crops. So first we have to know about the classification of the soil. So there are different categories based on which the soil are classified. So first we have the classification based on the age of formation, that when the soil has been formed. Okay, what are the life of the soil? So first we have the youthful soil. Youthful soil means that when the soil is freshly formed, when the soil is we can say that freshly formed at initial stages, when the soil is just initially formed, then it is called the youthful soil. So its characteristics are different. Mean youthful soil are more pervious. Okay, its infiltration rate is more high. Okay, so the youthful soil. And when some time has been passed, for example 5 months, 10 months, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, up to 10 year, then it is called the mature soil. So when the time is passing, so with respect to the time, the permeability of the soil is been decreasing. So the mature soil is less permeable than the youthful soil. And after some more time, for example 20 year and 30 year, then the soil is called the senile soil. Okay, a senile soil has little or no productivity. So the soil become hard and of very low permeability. So actually these classification will affect the crop water requirement, because youthful soil are more pervious, that are fully pervious, its infiltration rate is high, so deep percolation losses will be more, the water will be quickly infiltrated. Senile soil is less permeable, it has no productivity. Okay, it has we can say that less porosity, so the proper amount of water will not be available to the crop. So the best class based on the age is the mature soil, which is, we can say that, the medium porous soil, so proper amount of water will be available for the crop growth. Second classification of soil is based on the geological formation. Okay, that how the soil has been formed. So there are different natural processes through which the soil is forming. So the first one is called the residual soil. The soil that are formed by disintegration of rocks in place under various actions. Okay, as we have different types of rocks like geological rocks, or metamorphic rocks, or physical rocks. So due to, with respect to the time, due to the disintegration of these rocks, different types of soils are formed. So due to the disintegration of rocks, the soil which is formed is called the residual soil. Okay, second one, we have the alluvial soil. So the soil which is formed by deposition of waterborne material. Okay, suppose in the flowing water, if there is deposition, if there is sediments, then when the velocity of the water is decreased, so then the sediments or suspended particles are settled down, they are deposited. So the soil which is formed by the waterborne material are called the alluvial soil. The third class of the soil based on the geological formation is the Aeolian soil. So the soil which is formed by the deposition of the wind action, is we have two types of erosion. One is the water erosion, second one is the wind erosion. So if the soil particle is detached, then transported, then deposited by water, it is called the water erosion, and the soil which is formed by the water erosion is called the alluvial soil. Okay, and if the soil particle from one portion of the earth's surface is detached, transported and deposited by the action of wind, then it is called the Aeolian soil. Okay, so the characteristics of the residual, alluvial and Aeolian soil will be different, and it will affect the water requirement. Fourth type of the soil based on the geologic formation is the colluvial soil. Okay, so they are formed by the deposition of rain wash below foot hills. Okay, when heavy rainfall is occurred on the hilly areas, when heavy rainfall occur on the hilly areas, then it wash out the surface particle from the hills and it deposited on the foot of the hill. So that deposited soil on the foot of the hills are called the colluvial soil. Next classification of soil is the glacial soil. Okay, so they are formed by transportation and deposition by the glaciers, mean the soil which is detached and transported and deposited by the glaciers is called the glacial soil. Next class of the soil is the volcanic soil, that is formed by the deposition of the volcanic eruption. Soil of aggregation, these are accumulating soil which is accumulating from different natural activities. Okay, also soil of degradation which is formed by continuously zoning out of the different other from different other materials, right, like rocks or different other types of the structures. Third classification of the soil based on the chemical contents, that which type of contents are present abundantly in the soil. So then based on that chemical contents we have to classify the soil. So first class of the soil based on the chemical content is okay, if we have to decide about the best soil for agricultural purposes based on the geological formation, so it will be the soil which is formed by the waterborne material. Okay, the we can say that the alluvial soil, that is this is the best one for the agricultural purposes. Okay, now the soil which has the chemical content, so the first one is pedocale soil, the soil which is rich in the calcium carbonate. Okay, if calcium carbonate is present abundantly in a soil, then it will be called the pedocale soil. Also the soil in which aluminium or iron is present abundantly, then it is called Padelford soil. Okay, in such type of soil, aluminium or iron chemicals are present, we can say that abundantly. The third types of the soil based on the chemical deposition, that is called the humus soil. Okay, the soil rich in the organic salts. Okay, if organic impurities is present, organic salt is present, then the soil will be called the humus soil. So in this classification, the best type of soil is the humus one. So for the agricultural activity, if the soil is mature soil and it is alluvial soil and it is humus one, then it will be best for the agricultural activity. Okay. Next classification of the soil is based on the electrical conductivity, exchangeable sodium percentage and pH. So basically we have three types of soil. One is called the saline soil, or that is also called the white soil. Okay, so if we take a soil solution and its electrical conductivity is, for example, greater than 4000. Okay, if electrical conductivity of a soil is greater than 4000, or if its sodium percentage is we can say that less than 15, okay, then it is called the saline soil. Or the soil having the pH value, or soil having the pH value is less than or equal to 8.5. okay, so if the soil has these types of characteristics, then it is called the saline soil. Mean if its electrical conductivity is greater than 4000 micromole per centimeter, if its exchangeable sodium percentage is less than 15, or its pH is less than 8.5, then it will be called saline soil or white alkali. Second type of soil is alkaline soil. Yeah, that is called the non-saline alkali. Okay, or also it is called the sodic soil. Yeah, also it is called the black soil. Okay, if the electrical conductivity is less than 4000, okay, if the electrical conductivity is less than 4000, exchangeable sodium percentage is greater than 15, and pH value is from 8 to 10, then it will be called the alkaline soil. See, in the alkaline soil, the electrical conductivity is less than 4000. Okay, and it's we can say that exchangeable sodium percentage is greater than 50, then it is called the alkaline soil, mean opposite of the saline soil, and its pH value is almost from 8 to, we can say that, 10. Okay, and the third soil, that is the saline alkaline soil. The saline alkaline soil, again the saline alkaline soil has the electrical conductivity is greater than 4K, so that is the characteristic is based on the electrical conductivity, and its exchangeable sodium percentage is greater than 15. Okay, and the pH is almost less than 8, so then it is called the saline alkaline soil. So such soil are formed from normal non-saline soil through the accumulation of salt applied from irrigation water, mean the characteristics of the soil, the electrical conductivity, the exchangeable sodium percentage, and pH of the soil will be changed with respect to the application of the irrigation water having different chemical properties. So the characteristic of the soil will be changed from alkaline to saline soil, or from saline to alkaline soil. Okay. Then we have next classification of the soil based on the particle size. That is the most important one. That is called the textural classification. Okay, so a composite soil can be classified on the basis of the particle sizes, depending upon the percentage of sand, salt, and clay. That how much percentage of sand is present, how much percentage of salt and clay is present in a composite mixture. So soil texture refers to composition of the soil reflected by the particle size, shape, and gradation. What is the average size of the soil? What is the average shape of the soil? Okay, and we are defining it by sieve analysis. So according to international soil classification, the range of particle per each types of soil will be either the soil will be, we can say, the coarse sand if its size is from 2 to 0.2 millimeter, and if it is from 0.2 to 0.02, then it is called fine sand, and if it is from 0.02 to 0.002, it is called salt, and if the size of the particle is less than 0.002, it is called the clay. So these are the different classifications. Also, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, the soil is classified into 12 classes. Mean if the percentage of clay, sand, and salt is variable, so then the type of the class of the soil will be also different. Mean it will be not favor clay or favor sand or favor salt. Mean it will be a mixture of these three. So based on the variation of the percentages of clay, salt, and sand, so USDA has classified the soils in 12 classes, like that is clay, sandy clay, salty clay, salt clay loam, clay loam, sandy clay loam, sandy loam, salty loam, salt, loamy sand, and sand. Okay, so these are just based on the types of the based on the size of the particle. Okay, now the second parameter which we have to know before the determination of the irrigation water requirement, first we have to define the types of the soil, that what are the characteristics of the soil, what are the type of the soil. Then we have to prepare the land for the irrigation. If the land is not prepared, then we can go for different types of the method. As we have discussed in our previous lectures in the methods of irrigation, that the topography of the land is most important in the selection of the irrigation method. Okay, either the land is perfectly at zero level, or the land is at uniform level, or the land is at of irregular condition. Okay, so first we have to prepare the land for the irrigation purposes. So the land uncultivated should be properly prepared before irrigation water is applied upon it. So these are the different factors, like the land should be properly cleaned. Okay, removal of thick jungle or bushes, etc., from the raw land, so that the path of the irrigation water has been clear. The roots of the trees should be extracted and burned the land should thereafter be properly cleaned. Mean the path of the irrigation water will be free from any disturbance, that will be free from any obstruction. The second is the land should be made level. Okay, the land should be made level. Okay, mean here there here it will be B. The land should be made level. High patches, high irregularity in the topography, it will be scraped and depression will be filled. Okay, unless this is done, water will fill the depression and duty may be too low. If the water is not properly leveled, so then there will be depression and there will be high points, so then the field will not receive the uniform amount of water. Okay, some area will be over irrigated and some area will be under irrigated. So the land which you are irrigating, first some uniform slope will be provided, the land will be properly level. Okay, third point is provision of the regular slope. As we are providing the water, for example, if we are recommending or selecting the surface irrigation method, so in surface irrigation method the water is applied it at the upper end of the field. Suppose here is a stream, so the water will be applied only at this end. Now how the water will reach properly and uniformly into the downstream area, into the downstream portion of the field. So for that purposes regular slope will be provided. Division of land into suitable plots, again mean the whole area cannot be irrigated from a single point, so then we have to divide the area into different plots. Okay, means suppose this is the whole field, it will be divided into different plots with the help of levees, with the help of dikes, with the help of bunds, and then each plot will be separately irrigated. Okay, each plot will be separately irrigated, so then the proper uniform distribution of the water will be occur. Okay, so the land should be divided into suitable plots by small levees according to the method of irrigation. Construction of permanent supply ditches and water courses. Okay, for the distribution of water inside the field, we have to construct the permanent supply ditches and the water courses that will be excavated at regular spacing, which facilitate the proper distribution of the water to the entire field. Construction of the drain ditches. Okay, suppose if you are applying the irrigation by a surface method, so if here is the inlet point, mean here you are introducing the water into the field, so at the downstream area there should be some drainage system will be provided, so that the runoff water may be properly disposed of from the field, so that it may not damage the downstream area. So the drainage system must be constructed. Okay, so that was all about the land preparation for irrigation purposes. Now the third and most important point, that is the classes and availability of the soil water. Okay, before determination of the irrigation water requirement, first we have to know about the classes and the availability of the soil water, that how much water is available in the given type of the soil, what is your crop requirement, when the water will be completely utilized, then when you have to apply the irrigation, and how much irrigation will be applied to it. Okay, how much irrigation will be applied. So that is the basic requirement of the irrigation, and that is the most important parameter in the designing, planning and management of any engineering structure. Okay, so for that purposes, first we have to know about the classes and availability of water. So for example, you have a soil matrix. Okay, for example, you have a soil matrix and dry it in the oven for 24 hours at 104 or 105 degrees C. So the moisture content which is present in the soil, that will be completely evaporated from the soil. Okay, and the soil matrix will be free from moisture content. Here the moisture content in the soil will be 0%. We can say that it will be completely dry. So that is called the oven dried soil. Okay, means if 100% of the moisture content has been extracted, has been drained out from the soil sample, it will be called the oven dried sample. Now take out that sample from the oven and place it in the atmosphere. Okay, so in the atmosphere there is some moisture content and your soil sample is 100% dry, so it will absorb some moisture content from the atmosphere. See, when an oven dried sample is kept in the atmosphere, it will absorb some amount of water from the atmosphere. So that absorbed moisture content from the atmosphere, that is called the hygroscopic water. See, mean this one, that is the, we can say that is your soil sample. This total is your soil sample. Okay, now if this soil sample is completely dry, mean if there is zero moisture content, mean this line is representing the water level in the soil sample. If the water level in the soil sample is zero, that will be called the oven dried sample. Now if you keep this oven dried sample in the open atmosphere, it will absorb some moisture content from the atmosphere, which is called the hygroscopic water. Okay, and this and is not capable of movement by the gravity or capillary forces, and this hygroscopic water will be not able either to drain out from the sample through the force of gravity or to raise due to a capillary action. Mean this amount of moisture content will be tightly absorbed by the individual grains of the soil particle. That is called the hygroscopic water. Okay, now when the level between the atmosphere and the soil sample become equivalent, then there will be no loss or no absorption in the moisture content. Now you can add some amount of water into this sample. If you are adding the amount of water, you are adding the amount of water, and such amount of water which cannot be, mean suppose that is the hygroscopic water, that is now clear, mean the amount of water which is extracted by the soil sample from the atmosphere. Okay, that is called the hygroscopic water. Now that part in excess of hygroscopic water which exists in the pore space of the soil by molecular attraction. Okay, mean the amount of water, this one, mean up to here, the amount of water which is in excess of the hygroscopic water but attracted by, but exist in the pores due to the molecular attraction, that is called the capillary water. Okay, mean this water will be added physically. We have to add this amount of water. And remember, if you are adding more water, if you are adding more than this level, then that water will be drained out due to the force of gravity, due to the gravitational forces. So then it is called the gravitational water. Clear? Mean we have three types of water: hygroscopic water, capillary water, and the gravitational water. Mean gravitational water is that part in excess of hygroscopic water which exists in the pore space of the soil. Gravitational water is that part in excess of hygroscopic and capillary water which will move out of the soil if favorable drainage is provided. See, hygroscopic water, mean at open dry soil there is zero moisture content. When you have kept the sample in the open atmosphere, then absorb moisture content from the atmosphere is called hygroscopic water. Then we can add some amount of moisture content. Okay, so add the moisture content up to the level that beyond which drainage will be started, that is called the capillary water. Okay, now you can add more water, but that water will not remain in the sample, that will be drained out. Okay, mean at this level the soil is not completely saturated. There is possibility of the addition of some more water, but that water will not be retained in the pore spaces of the soil sample, it will be drained out. So that is called the gravitational water. Yeah, also we can say that gravitational water is that amount of water which cannot retain in the pore space of the soil. Yeah, the water which can be drained out with the gravitational forces. Capillary water and hygroscopic water, these two types of water cannot be drained out by the gravitational forces. Okay, so water may also be classified as, now you can see that the hygroscopic water, this water is tightly attached by this individual grain of the soil particle. So this water cannot be absorbed by the plants. Okay, in this water cannot be easily extracted by the roots of the agricultural crop. Also, some portion of the capillary water cannot be extracted. So more power will be required, some extraordinary power will be required for the utilization of this amount of water by the plants. So we can say that this is the unavailable water in terms of the utilization by the crops. Okay, the hygroscopic water and some part of the capillary water cannot be utilized, cannot be extracted by the roots. Okay, so that is called the unavailable water. Now see, the water which is more than the capillary water, okay, that is drained out, that will be deep percolated, again that is the superfluous water. Okay, mean this water is not available for the plant, this is not retainable water in the root zone, so it will not be extracted by the it will not be available for the plant. So again it is the superfluous water, it is the extra water. Now the water which is available for the utilization by the plants, the water which is available for the extraction, for the roots extraction, that is called the available water. Okay, so this is also one of the classification, the available water, unavailable water and the superfluous water. Okay, now there are some terminologies. One is called the soil moisture tension. For example, this is the ground surface, there is a plant, so this will be for example its root, so the moisture content present here will be the hygroscopic water and the capillary water. Okay, yeah, the water content which is present in the root zone, it will be up to the level of the field capacity. Okay, mean the water which retained against the force of gravity, that is called the field capacity, and field capacity is equal to capillary water plus hygroscopic water. Okay, so this amount of water will be present in the root zone. Now the root will extract some pores on the water molecule to extract it from the soil environment, that is called the soil moisture tension. Okay, the force per unit area, okay, the force, we can say that per unit area extracted by the root, the force per unit area that must be exerted in order to extract water from the soil is known as soil moisture tension. Okay, that is force per unit area, mean Newton per square meter, so it will be in term of atmosphere. Okay, mean Newton per meter, yeah, Pascal. So the force exerted by the roots on unit area of the soil to extract from it some moisture content, that is called the soil moisture tension and is expressed in Pascal. It is also known as capillary potential, or it is also called the capillary tension, or it is also called the force of suction. Soil moisture tension is inversely proportional to the moisture content. Now that is the most important sentence. See, if the moisture content is abundantly available, if moisture content is maximally available, then the plant will easily extract the moisture content from the root zone. Mean the soil moisture tension will be less force will be required for the extraction of the soil moisture. Okay, so the soil moisture tension is inversely proportional to the moisture content. If the moisture content is decreasing, then more force will be required for the extraction of the plants. Remember this sentence, that the soil moisture tension is inversely proportional to the moisture content of a soil of given texture and structure, because the characteristic of the soil is not variable, it is constant both texturally and structurally. Okay, now soil moisture stress. Soil moisture stress is defined as the sum of the soil moisture tension and the osmotic pressure. Okay, mean the soil moisture tension plus osmotic pressure of soil solution is called the soil moisture stress. Means osmotic pressure is the increase in the force caused by the salt present. Now see, for example, if this is the ground surface, that is a crop, it is its roots, okay, that is the environment, that is the root zone. So some moisture content water will be present here, and the plant will exert some force per unit area to extract the moisture content, which is called the soil moisture tension. Now if there is some salt particle is present, for example free sodium is there in the root zone, okay, then free sodium are keeping the moisture content more tightly. So if salt particle is there, if salt is present in the root zone, then more force will be required for the extraction of the moisture content. So that extra pressure, that extra amount of pressure which is required for the extraction of moisture content due to the presence of the salts, that is called the osmotic pressure. So the osmotic pressure, which is due to the presence of salts, and the moisture tension, which is just everly required for the extraction of moisture content. So the moisture tension plus osmotic pressure, that is called the moisture stress. So soil moisture stress is defined as the sum of the soil moisture tension and osmotic pressure of soil solution. Osmotic pressure is the increase in the force caused by the salt present in the soil solution. Okay, so the growth of the plant is a function of both soil moisture tension as well as the osmotic pressure. Clear? Now, soil moisture contents. As we have discussed that there are three types of water content: hygroscopic water, capillary water, and the gravitational water. Now, the water which retained in the soil against the force of gravity, that is called the fluid capacity. Also, if the soil porosity is completely filled up with water, okay, porosity of the soil mean that is represented by n, that is equal to the volume of voids divided by the total volume, that is called the porosity, that how much percentage of the soil is composed of the pores. So if the soil sample is completely filled up with water, if the pore spaces of the soil sample is completely filled up with the water, then we can say that the soil is at the saturation capacity. Okay, that is also called the maximum moisture holding capacity or the total capacity, that how much water is required, how much amount of water is required to fill all the pore spaces between the soil particle. Okay, by replacing the air, mean in pores mostly air are present in there. So if you are applying the water, so the air will be replaced by the water. Okay, so if all the pore spaces of the soil is filled up with water, so how much amount of water will be required? That is called the total capacity. Yeah, that is called the maximum moisture holding capacity. Okay, so for example, if the soil porosity is 50% by volume, then the moisture in each, for example, if we have 1 meter soil matrix, okay, for example we have a matrix having volume of 1 meter, length 1 meter, height 1 meter, width 1 meter, and length 1 meter. Suppose the porosity of the matrix is 50%, mean 50% of this soil matrix is composed of pore spaces. So then 50 centimeter of water will be required. Okay, if it is 1 meter high, 1 meter is its length, 1 meter is its width. Okay, for example its porosity is 50%, then 50 centimeter mean 50% is pore spaces and 50% is the soil particle. Then 50 centimeter depth of water will be required to completely fill its pore spaces from the water. So its total capacity is 50 centimeter. Yeah, its saturation capacity is 50 centimeter. Now when all the pores are completely filled of water, then we will say that the soil is of the saturation capacity. But when you allow it, okay, so due to the gravitational forces, some moisture content will be drained out. So the moisture content of the soil after free drainage, okay, mean after the free drainage, the moisture content which is retained in the soil, that is called the field capacity. Okay, field capacity is the moisture content in the soil after free drainage. Okay, now see, to the plant, yeah, the water which is available to the plant, that is up to the field capacity. Now the plant will start the extraction of the water. Okay, so the plant will start to extraction of the water. Now see, when the plant reach to this level, okay, mean if the soil is completely saturated, it will be called the saturation capacity, but some water will be lost due to the gravitational forces, then the water retained against the gravitational forces is called the field capacity. So for the root zone, for each and every crops, if it is completely saturated, then the water content which is available for the extraction, that is at this level. So the plant will start the utilization of the water. Okay, the plant will start the extraction of the water. So when the plant start the extraction of the water, so this level will be decreased, and it will reach up to this level. Okay, now furtherly, no water will be easily available to the plant. So the water content at which the plant can no longer extract sufficient water from the soil for its growth. Mean the water is available, but the plant cannot extract it. Mean more moisture tension is required, and there are some limitation for each and every crops. Okay, mean beyond some limit, then the plants cannot apply more tension for the water extraction. Water is available, but the plant cannot extract it for its growth. So then that amount of water is called the permanent wilting point, or that is called the wilting coefficient. The permanent wilting point is at the lower end of the available moisture range. Okay, mean the lower end of the available moisture, that is called the permanent wilting point. If the plant does not get sufficient water to meet its requirement, it will wilt permanently. And a plant is considered to be permanently wilted when it will not regain its turgidity even after being placed in a saturated atmosphere. Okay, when the moisture content reach up to this level, then the plant will not extract the water content, and it will start wilting. Okay, and if the plant is permanently wilted, then if you saturate the soil, the plant will not regain its turgidity, and the growth of the crops will be affected or damaged. The permanent wilting point depends upon the rate of water used by the plant. Okay, suppose the soil, the field capacity is, for example, 30%. Now what is the rate of utilization? What is the consumptive use by the crops? Okay, how much water it is utilizing in 24 hours? So if the plant is utilizing more water in 24 hours, then the permanent wilting point will reach quickly. Then you have to apply irrigation quickly. Okay, so at the permanent wilting point, the soil moisture tension may range between 7 to 40 atmosphere. Mean if the water content is at this level, then 7 to 40 atmospheric pressure will be required for the extraction of the moisture content. Okay, depending upon the consumptive use, the type of the soil, the type of the crops, the salt content in the soil. Okay, and at the permanent wilting point, the water around the soil particle are tightly attached. Okay, mean the water is there, but it is tightly attached by the soil particle, which is not extractable by the roots. Okay, and also we have another term which is called the temporary wilting. So the temporary wilting may sometime take place during hot season, but the plant will recover in the cooler portion of the day. Okay, mean in summer season, mostly at daytime the evapotranspiration rate is high, so at afternoon or the daytime the water are temporarily wilted. Okay, but at night time then it regain its rigidity, it regain its growth, which is called the temporary wilting. And also we have the ultimate wilting. Ultimate wilting is slightly different than the permanent wilting. When ultimate wilting occurs, the plant will not regain its rigidity. Okay, even after the addition of sufficient water. Mean if the water is completely wilted, then if you provide water, but the plant will not regain its life. Okay, and it will die permanently. Now see the moisture content. See, that is the, we can say that is the permanent wilting point. Okay, the lower limit of this water, that is called the permanent wilting point. Okay, and this level, that is the field capacity, mean the water which retain against the force of gravity, that is the, we can say that is the field capacity. So field capacity minus permanent wilting point, that is called the available moisture. See, that is the maximum water holding capacity of the soil, and beyond this limit the plant cannot extract the water. So only the water which is in between the field capacity and permanent wilting point, that is available to the plant. Okay, then again the lower limit of the available water, this one, this limit, there this water is available to the plant, but there is some difficulty in the extraction. Mean the water is available, the water is extractable, the water is utilizable, but more tension will be required for its extraction. So if the plant is exerting more tension, then automatically its growth will be affected, its strength will be affected. Okay, so then we have some portion of the available water which is easily extractable. For example, up to here, mean field capacity to permanent wilting point, that is available water, but the lower level of the available water is extracted difficultly. So the portion of the available water which is easily extractable, that is called the readily available water. And readily available water are almost from 70 to 80% of the available water. Okay, 70 to 80% of the available water is readily available water, mean that is easily extractable. Clear? Now next we have the soil moisture deficiency. This is the most important parameter in the irrigation requirement. Yeah, in the design of the irrigation canal, that is in the frequency of the irrigation. Okay, as we have discussed that the water which is available to the plant is from this limit, from the field capacity limit. Okay, because beyond this limit this water is not available, because this water is drained out. Okay, so if this water is drained out, then only the available water is, we can say that, up to this limit, up to the field capacity limit. Now when the soil is completely saturated, so the water will be available to the plant at the field capacity level. Okay, so the plant will start the utilization, the plant will start the extraction of the soil, the extraction of the water. Now how much you are allowing to decrease the level of the water in the soil content. Okay, suppose the water is utilized by the plants, and the level reached up to here. Now the water is difficult to extract, so then you have to apply the irrigation again. Okay, so you have allowed the moisture content to decrease up to this limit. That is called the soil moisture deficiency. Yeah, that is called the maximum allowable deficiency. Soil moisture deficiency or field moisture deficiency or maximum allowable deficiency is the water required to bring this moisture content of the soil to its field capacity. Okay, mean when the moisture content reach to this level, then you have to apply the irrigation, and when you are applying the irrigation, so this level will be increased, and how much you have to apply the water so that it may reach to the field capacity, because beyond this level, if you are applying further irrigation, then the water will be lost in the deep percolation. Okay, so these are the different terminologies. Now, most importantly, we have the depth of the water stored in the root zone and available to the plants. For example, we can say that a unit soil sample. Unit soil sample means, for example, its length, its breadth, and its height is, for example, that is sorry, I'm not getting drawing. Okay, for example, okay, this is, for example, 1 meter height of the sample, that is 1 meter width, and that is 1 meter length. For example, we have one unit volume sample, 1 cubic meter. Okay, now let the dry unit weight of the soil. Okay, the depth of the water stored in the root zone and how much is available to the plant. So as we have discussed in the previous slide, that the water stored in the root zone is up to the field capacity. I mean, up to this level the water is stored in the root zone, because beyond this level the water is lost due to the gravitational forces. Okay, so the field capacity will be in terms of percentages. So how we will convert it into linear unit in terms of inches, in terms of centimeter, mean how we will convert it into depth of water, and then how much water will be available to the plants, mean the available water, the readily available water. Okay, so in order to estimate the depth of the water stored in the root zone of soil containing of water up to field capacity, for example, that is the ground surface, these are the crops, okay, and up to here, that is the depth of the root zone, mean up to here the root can extract the water. Okay, mean suppose this is the depth of the root zone. For example, root are penetrated up to here. Okay, suppose that is in meter, and for example, the water capacity of the soil which is stored against the force of gravity, that is Fc. Mean Fc is the field capacity, because beyond this level the water will be drained out. Okay, so the capacity of the soil which retain the moisture content against the force of gravity, that is the field capacity. Okay, for example, in percentages, suppose 50% is the porosity. Okay, and in 50%, for example, 20% of the water is drained out and 30% is retained, so the field capacity will be 20%. Now that is the dry unit weight of the soil. Okay, mean Newton per cubic meter, the dry unit weight of the soil, and the unit weight of the water. So standardly the unit weight of the water is 9.8 kilonewton per cubic meter. Okay, that is the we can say that the standard unit weight of the water, 9.81 kilonewton per cubic meter. Now we have considered this matrix. Okay, 1 cubic meter, height is 1 meter, width is 1 meter, and length is 1 meter. So its surface area will be 1 square meter. Okay, if the width is 1 meter and length is 1 meter, so it's we can say that its area will be unit area, 1 square meter area. Okay, now the weight of the water retained in the unit area. Okay, that is the definition of the field capacity. That field capacity is equal to weight of the water. Generally we can say that weight of the water retained in the soil divided by total weight of the soil. That is the general definition of the field capacity. Okay, that if you have suppose 10 kilogram or convert it into weight, for example you have 10 Newton weight of the soil, and in 10 Newton of soil, for example 3 Newton of the water has been retained. So 3 Newton divided by 10 Newton multiplied by 100, so 30% will be the field capacity. Now for example in this unit area, the depth is how much? The depth is d, and the surface area is, suppose for example this will be also 1 meter. For example the surface area is 1 meter and the depth is d. So then we will say that the weight of water retained in unit area divided by the weight of this unit area, weight of soil of this unit area, that will be also equal to the weight of water retained in unit area divided by weight of soil. So what will be the weight of soil? The weight of soil is actually C, that is the dry unit weight is equal to, the dry unit weight is equal to Newton per cubic meter. So what will be the weight? See, the weight will be equal to the gamma d multiplied by, we can say that the volume. So volume is what? Volume is area multiplied by depth. So area is 1 unit. Okay, and that is the depth. So weight of water retained in unit area, that is equal to multiply this denominator to the side in field capacity gamma d and d. Okay, so now the depth of water stored, see, that is the total depth of the soil, okay, its unit area is 1 square meter. Now in this total depth of the soil, how much will be the depth of the water? Okay, how much will be the depth of the water? So FC gamma d divided by gamma w. Okay, mean weight of water will be equal to what? Gamma w, okay, multiplied by gamma w multiplied by what? Unit weight of water. That will be the weight of water retained in unit area. That will be equal to we can say that that will be the weight of water. Okay, that is equal to this one. Now the depth of the water retained, dw, so place it here, gamma w. So fc gamma d and d. See, if there is 1 square meter area and the depth is d, so in the depth, in this much depth of the soil, the depth of the water will be this one. Okay, so a part of this depth of water will be available for evapotranspiration. Now see, the depth of the water at the field capacity is this one. Now we have discussed in the previous slides that total field capacity moisture content is not available for the extraction. Some portion of the field capacity is available, and that is from field capacity up to the wilting point, up to the wilting coefficient, up to the permanent wilting point. Wilting coefficient or permanent wilting point. Okay, so the difference between the field capacity and the wilting point, that is the amount of water which is available to the plant. Okay, so just in the place of FC, that is the total water available. Now how much water is available for the evapotranspiration, how much water is available for the extraction, that is this one. Okay, so remember this formula. Now simply we can describe this formula that if you have a soil having the field capacity this one, the field capacity are mostly determined in the we can say the field capacity are mostly determined in the laboratory. In different type of equipments are used, centrifuge or tensiometer are used. So when you are designing an irrigation project for a specific area, first you have to find out the field capacity of the soil, you have to find out the wilting coefficient of the soil, then you have to find out the unit weight of the soil. So these three characteristics will be determined experimentally. Okay, and also you have to know about the depth of the root zone, that up to how much depth a plant can extract the water. Okay, and we know the standard gamma w. So from this you can determine that how much depth of water will be available for the extraction, yeah, how much depth of water will be available for the utilization by the plants. So remember, then you have to apply this much water, because the water will, because when the water content reached to the permanent melting point, then you have to apply the irrigation. And how much irrigation will be applied to raise the water level from the wilting coefficient up to the field capacity. So actually that will be the depth of water. Okay, so the available moisture content is this one to the plants. Okay, now see, for example, the root zone of an irrigation soil has dry weight of, that is the dry weight of the soil, 15 kilonewton per cubic meter. Okay, that is we can say that gamma d of the soil is this one, and the field capacity is 30%. Okay, 30%. The root zone depth of a certain crop having permanent wilting point is 8%. See, 8% is the permanent wilting point, and the root zone depth, that is 0.8, mean that is D, mean up to this much depth a plant can extract the water. Now determine the moisture in the root zone at field capacity. See, mean if the soil porosity, if 30% of the soil pores are filled up with water, yeah, if the amount of water which filled the pores up to field capacity is 30%, then how much it will be in linear unit, in terms of centimeter and in terms of suppose inches, and depth of moisture in the root zone up to permanent wilting point, and the depth of the water available. So see, at field capacity, gamma d multiplied by field capacity multiplied by gamma w. Okay, and also there is another parameter which is d. If you are not multiplying d here, so it will be per meter. Okay, so see, gamma d 15 kilonewton and the gamma water is 9.81 kilonewton, 30%, that is the field capacity. See, so in 1 meter of the soil sample, okay, in 1 meter of the soil sample, for example, this is the earth surface, this is, for example, we can say that 1 meter, okay, because we have not applied d, so it will be considered as a unit depth. Okay, so in 1 meter depth of soil, there is 0.459 meter of water. When it is when the pores are filled of water up to the field capacity, then in 1 meter depth of soil, 0.459 meter of water will be available. And depth of water in the root zone at permanent wilting point, because after this limit the plant will not extract the water. Okay, so see, just at field capacity, just put here permanent wilting point, so 15 divided by 9.81 multiplied by 0.08, that is the permanent wilting point is 8%. So 0.122 meter per meter. See, in 1 meter approximately 0.46 meter. If the water is available up to this level, then the soil will be at field capacity level, and when the water is at this level, 122 millimeter, yeah, 0.12 meter, then that will be the permanent wilting point. Okay, mean this water will be not extractable by the plant, and the water which is more than this level, that will be drained out. So this water is available to the plants, and that will be from 8% to 30%. So depth of water available in root zone, depth of water available in root zone. Now you can see that How much is the depth? The depth of the root zone is 0.8 meter. That is given. The depth of the root zone is 0.8 meter. So the water available in the root zone to the plant is from feed capacity minus permanent wilting point, and the root zone depth is 0.8 meter. So if in 1 meter, if now also you can find out interchangeably. For example, that is we can say that 4, 5, 9 is millimeter. In 1 meter is the field capacity, and 1, 2 is the we can say that the permanent wilting point. But remember, these are in 1 meter. Okay, so what is the difference between these two? The difference between these two is we can say that 337. Okay, so 337 millimeter of water is available in 1 meter. Remember, that is in 1 meter. Now how much water will be available in 0.8 meter? So if in 1 meter 337 millimeter is available, so how much will be available in 0.8 meter? So that will be 269 millimeter. Yeah, also you can find out that the field capacity is 0.3, permanent wilting point is 0.008, the root zone depth is 0.8, gamma D is this one, gamma W is this one. So you can see that this much water will be available to the plants. So this much water will be available to the root zone. Okay. Now we have another parameters, another factors which are most important in the irrigation water requirement. That is the limiting soil moisture condition. Okay, so from the previous discussion, it is essential to maintain the readily available water. Okay, mean if the water, if throughout the season the water is available at the readily available condition, then the crop will be then the crop growth will be satisfactory. Okay, here you can see the relationship between the moisture content and the rate of growth. See, suppose at x-axis there is moisture content, and y-axis that is the rate of growth. So if moisture content is 0, okay, throughout the season moisture content is 0, then the crop growth will be also 0, meaning no crops will be grown. If the availability of moisture content is increasing, okay, then the growth will be also increasing. And remember, after some limit, see, if the soil is completely saturated, mean if the moisture content is 100%, if the moisture content is increased beyond some limit, then the rate of growth will be affected. How? See, after this limit, the rate of growth is decreasing, because if the moisture content is increased beyond some limit, yeah, if all the pores are completely filled up with water, then aeration will be stopped. Then there will be no metabolism. There will be no exchange of the airs. There will be no free oxygen available. So the growth will be affected. Okay. So the moisture content which is required for the moisture content at which the growth is optimum, so that is called the optimum moisture content. Okay, so throughout the season this much moisture content is provided, so the crop growth or the crop yield will be maximum, possibly optimum. But remember, throughout the season this fixed amount of moisture content cannot be maintained, so we have a limit. Okay, that if the moisture content is from the field capacity up to the wilting point, then the growth will be variable from this level up to this level. But if we increase this threshold value up to here, which is the we can say that the readily available water, so then the growth will be varied from this portion to this portion, mean that will be the yield variation. Okay, so the water content from the field capacity up to the wilting coefficient, yeah, the water from the field capacity up to the permanent melting point, that is called the available water, which we have discussed. So throughout the season the water is available at this level. Okay, then you can see that the crop growth variation will be this one. So if we have to decrease this variation, then we have to make changes in the availability of the moisture content. So we have to provide the moisture content up to this level, which is the lower limit of the readily available water. This is the lower limit of the available water. Okay, the lower limit of available water, that is called the permanent wilting point, that is called the wilting coefficient, and this is the lower limit of the readily available water. Okay, so if the water is maintained from the field capacity up to the lower limit of the readily available water, then the crop growth will be maximum, then the crop yield will be optimum. Okay, so the plant growth may be retarded if the soil moisture is either deficient or the soil moisture is excessive. So if the soil moisture is only slightly more than the wilting coefficient, the soil moisture is slightly more than the wilting coefficient, the plant must expend extra energy to obtain it, and the plant will not grow healthy. Okay, I mean if it is reduced. Okay, so the optimum moisture percentage is the moisture corresponding to which the growth is optimum, that is the optimum moisture percentage. So it will be in the ranges of this one. Okay, so we have to allow the moisture to deplete it from the field capacity up to the lower limit of the readily available water, and when the moisture content reached from field capacity up to this level, then you have to apply the irrigation. Now see, this is also the most important, depth and frequency of irrigation. For example, with respect to the time, suppose you have applied the irrigation. Okay, if you apply the irrigation, then the moisture content will be at this level, and that is the field capacity level, because beyond this level no more moisture content will be retained in the soil environment, because it will be drained out. So that will be the maximum available water to the crops. Now with respect to the time, the water will be utilized by the plants, and this water will be decreased progressively. See, okay, mean the water will be utilized by the plants. So when the moisture content reach to the lower limit of the readily available water, then you have to apply the irrigation. So when you apply the irrigation, again the moisture level will be raised up to the field capacity. Now again the water will be allowed to utilized by the plants, and the level will be decreased progressively. Okay, so again when the moisture content reach up to the lower limit of the readily available water, you have to apply the irrigation. Okay, again that will be allowed to deplete up to this level, again you have to apply the irrigation. So that is the cycle. Okay, that is the field capacity, that is the lower limit of the readily available water, that is the lower limit of the available water. Mean if the moisture content is reduced up to here, then the wilting of the plants will be started, and if furtherly this moisture content is reduced, then the plant will be ultimately wilted. So you have to allow the depletion up to the lower limit of the readily available water, then you have to apply the field capacity, then the moisture content will be depleted up to the lower limit of the readily available water, then you have to apply the irrigation. Okay, so that is the depth of irrigation, mean this much water will be applied in one irrigation, that is the depth of irrigation. And when you have to apply the irrigation, when this level reached up to here, so see, that is the time, that is the duration, that after this much time you have to apply the irrigation. See, after this much time you have to apply the irrigation, that is called the frequency of irrigation. So as explained earlier, available moisture is the moisture between the wilting and field capacity. Okay, that is the wilting and field capacity, that is the available water. The readily available water is the water which is easily extracted by the plant. So almost 70 to 80% of the available water will be the readily available water. This one, the readily available water. Okay, at any time, therefore, the moisture content in the soil could be between the field capacity and the lower limit of the soil. Means throughout the season, if the moisture content is retained from the field capacity up to the lower limit of the readily available water, then the growth will be optimum. The crop growth will be optimum. Okay, see that M0, that is most important. That is the lower limit of the readily available water. Okay, so when watering is done, the amount of water supplied should be such that the water content is equal to the field capacity. Mean in one irrigation, how much water will be applied? That much amount of water will be applied so that the level may raised up to the field capacity. Water will be gradually, then the water will be gradually utilized by the plant, which is called the consumptive use 24. The water which is utilized in 24 hours. Okay, and the soil moisture will start falling down. So when the water content of the soil reach to this level M0, then you have to apply the fresh dose of irrigation. Okay, so that is the frequency. The frequency of irrigation is controlled by the amount of water available. The frequency of irrigation is controlled by the amount of available water contained in the root zone. Now see, that is the available water. See, this much when this much water is depleted, see, from the field capacity up to the lower limit of the readily available water, from the field capacity up to the lower limit of the readily available water. So that is actually DW. When this much water is utilized by the plant, and you have to apply again. See, if this level from this point is reached up to here, again you have to apply the water up to the field capacity. So this much depth will be applied. So that is also the depth of water to be applied in one irrigation. Okay, so this is the most important equation, that how much water will be applied in one irrigation. So if the moisture content is depleted up to the readily available water, from field capacity up to the lower limit of readily available water, then that is the unit weight of the soil, unit weight of the water, that is the depth of the root zone. So this much water you have to apply. Okay, and you can see if Cu is the consumptive use, that is the daily consumption, in 24 hours how much water is utilized. So see, that is the total water utilized, and the plant is utilizing this much in one day. So this much water will be utilized in this much days, which is called the frequency of irrigation. That is the total water utilized, that is the utilization in 24 hours. So this water will be utilized in this much days. That is called the we can say that the frequency of the irrigation. Now see, in one irrigation we have to apply this much depth, this much centimeter of water, this much inches of water. And if you have the total area which you have to irrigate, that is air, for example in square meter. Okay, this much depth of water you have to apply, that is for example in meter. This is the total area which you have to irrigate. Okay, that is the total area which you have to irrigate, that is the total area. And in one irrigation this much depth will be required to apply. For example, that is the discharge of the canal, or the discharge of the water course, or the discharge of at the inlet point to the field. Okay, so this much depth you have to apply to this much area, that is the discharge of the canal. So the water will be applied for this much time. Okay, mean that is the volume to be applied by this much discharge of the stream. So that is in second. Okay, this much second you have to allow Q discharge of water to A area, so that this much water is supplied. Okay, and to convert it into hours, then if the area is in square meter, dW is the depth of the water applied in meter. If A is expressed in hectare, then see, if the area is in hectare, okay, and W, that is the depth of water in meter, and that is the discharge in cubic meter per second. So that will be the conversion. Mean this much hours you have to apply the irrigation. Okay, we have a simple question. After how many days will you supply water to soil in order to ensure efficient irrigation of the given crop? See, the field capacity is 27%, permanent wilting point is 14%. Now 27 and minus 14, that is 13%, that is the available water. Mean this much water will be available to the plant, but that is not the readily available water. Remember, that is the available water. Okay, the dry density of the soil is this one. The root zone is 75 centimeter, and in one day the plants are utilizing 11 centimeter of water. So the available moisture will be field capacity minus permanent wilting point, that is 13%. But we know that if the irrigation is efficient, if we have to maintain the optimum crop growth, then the water will be from readily available moisture content. For example, that is 80% of the available. So 80% of the available is 10.4%. Now see, when the moisture content available will be 27%, when out of 27%, 10.4% is utilized. Okay, that is readily available to the plant. So how much will be retained? See, up to 27, this much is extracted. So this much will be the lower limit of the readily available water, that is MR, the lower limit of the readily available water. Now how much water is utilized by the plant? So see, unit weight of water, unit weight of the water, unit weight of the soil, that is the depth of the, there is, that is only 1D, depth of the root zone, field capacity minus lower limit of the soil, lower limit of the soil. So see, this much water will be utilized in terms of mean weight. That is actually, that is the that 10.4% of water. Okay, when 10.4% of water from 0.75 meter depth is utilized, so it will be 11.9 centimeter. And see, in one day, okay, in one day the plant is utilizing 1.1 centimeter. So this much water will be utilized in 10 days. So then after 10 days you have to apply the irrigation. So that will be the frequency. This is the frequency. And how much water will be applied in one irrigation? 12 centimeter water will be applied in one irrigation. Okay. Now for example, if the discharge, okay, if the discharge of the stream is 20, we can say that liter per second. Okay, for example, if you have a field of for example, the field is 40 hectare. Okay, yeah, we can say that if the field is of 40 meter by 250 meter, okay, that is the area, and you have to apply the irrigation. How much irrigation? Approximately, for example, 12 centimeter irrigation is applied. Okay, approximately 10 centimeter irrigation is applied, and the discharge of the stream is 20 liter per second. So when this area will be irrigated, okay, yeah, for how much time you have to allow this water? So that is the time of irrigation is equal to we can say that area. Okay, so area will be 40 multiplied by 250, area multiplied by the depth which is required. So the depth required is 12 centimeter or 0.12 meter. Okay, and divide by what is the discharge? Discharge is 20 liter per second. Remember, 20 liter per second. Yeah, it is we can say that if you divide it into 1000 by 20, so that will be 0.02 cubic meter per second. Okay, so the answer will be in seconds or convert it into hours, so it will be in 20 hours. Okay, so if you allow 20 liter per second of water for 20 hours into this area, so the 12 centimeter of water will be applied into the given area.